Welcome back, everyone, to the LJL Officially Unofficial. I am barely still Middlecar, and apparently Melvin Izzle is here as well. You can actually hear my voice this time, which is a welcome change, and hopefully this next game, V3 versus CGA, will be a little bit different to the previous one.
At very least, slightly more proactive is what we hope for, and we did just watch the Hawks not do anything for about 30 minutes and then do everything all at once to punish a solitary mistake from Nap in the river. CGA, a team that has been relatively stereotyped because of how they've actually played as one that doesn't really acknowledge the laning phase of the early game and then somehow comes back later. They tried to play to that with a comp that pretty much absolutely just encompassed their style with things like the Karthus jungle, the Ornn top lane, and then it got to a point where they had outscaled, and they didn't try and win the game, and they just got styled on by Dasher.
Yeah, and I think that mid lane is a really important one to touch on, because before the game we were looking at as the big matchup to think about, and coming into this next one, obviously V3 Ace has looked a little bit rougher recently, and Nathan didn't have the best performance this game, so one of these mid laners will need to step it up a little bit if they're going to take this game.
And I personally want to draw attention to the top lane before we hop into Champ Select to look over at Cog and Nap. In the last week, V3 went 0-2. They were leading the front of the pack at 5-1 before that, and I must say it wasn't because they were putting Cog on Mundo, but stop putting Cog on Mundo, please. I get it's a good weak side pick, but this is a very good player who is just being kind of trapped into a pick that really has its limits for what it's physically capable of getting done. And I would say that Nap was playing very well on the Ornn. They were constantly winning the lane against a Renekton, which, given the current state of Ornn, is actually relatively impressive. But then later on into the game, it was only the one pick that they really misstepped in that lost them the game. It's something that they may repeat, but let's keep an eye out for.
Yeah, a game of few mistakes, but the one that he did make was very impactful. As we will be hopping into Champion Select now, we see V3 actually fairly impressed by Nahyun's Lucian in the last game. We'll take this one away, and surprise, surprise, Ziggs is on the ban list once again.
This is something that we saw from Hollow, and based on CGA, I think it may just be them not wanting to play it because it can reliably end the game quickly with these satchels. That might actually be the logic behind it, frankly speaking, as taking a look through, we do get that Irelia, who is still pretty good despite receiving a little bit of nerfage. They are absolutely insane on the current patch of 11.14 that these players are on. It will be the Varus taken away, though, something that is going to be denied away from Milan, as it will be Viego final ban and an instant Gwen. Okay,
we talked about taking Cog off of Mundo and putting it on something a little bit spicier. Gwen definitely is that. We start to see so many top laners dominate this one. Nap, in particular, is one I'd have to highlight, who's looked very good. So not only this is a very strong pick for you, also a takeaway. The response from CGA, a little bit unorthodox, actually, going for this Aphelios Thresh, a bit more bot lane centric, a bit more of a carry duo than we've come to expect from them.
It's going to flip the script a little bit, and we were kind of wondering to see if they would stick to their style of trying to ignore the lane phase. This is definitely not a bot lane that you can just lose lane on. This is a bot lane that is meant to win lane, and now with both of them being picked up immediately, it leaves the question of how V3 wants to respond. They are currently hovering over the Leona. I'm curious if they will pair this with some kind of mage that can keep them at a distance, or if they're just going to go for a bit more of a defensive ADC. We may see something like the Ashe, as it will be locked in right here. Very, very good for controlling both of these bot laners that CGA have immediately grabbed.
Yeah, you've got some good disengage with that Dark Passage, but it's very hard to disengage from about a million forms of CC. This is a lane that V3 should be looking to play throughout whatever Mujin locks in for the jungle, but he will have a tough time because he's going to be matching up against Kassin's Xin Zhao. This is a guy that loved to play this champion in spring when it wasn't meta. Now that it is, and very oppressive, can definitely do bits.
Is to keep an eye on seeing what other junglers are still on the table. We haven't had that Graves ban that we have seen a couple times today. one of the reasons that that champion has kind of had a mini resurgence is the basically true lethality build, and the reason that it's getting picked up is because it does very well into Gwen and very well into Xin Zhao, who, as you can see, both picked up this game and have been hilariously oppressive. The reason for that? Graves gets right up in your face, does an extreme amount of damage, and can kill you through the Crescent Guard and Hallowed Mist, respectively.
Yeah, but CJ not really prioritizing that, instead going towards this, the Volibear, who another early game jungler that can potentially match up against the Xin Zhao. V3 choosing to remove the Gnar and the Kennen, these big team fight range top laners. I think we saw Nat play Kennen once, looked actually pretty good on the champion.
Oh.
And there it is, it's Mungus. Could go towards Nap in the top lane. And would be putting him on weak side, a very different style to what we've seen before, but it is going to be the set instead. A little bit more damage, but still very, very tanky.
I think it makes a bit more sense, and I'm not just saying that because I don't like Mundo. By the way, I don't like Mundo. In this game, you already have a Leona and an Ashe, so they have more than enough ways to pop that shield off of them and get them into a CC range. So it is a good reason to pivot to the set, and more importantly, with the Gwen, you can just chuck them out of that Hallowed Mist with the ultimate. So it's something that in team fights can see potential outplays right here, presuming that goes up to Nap. Could end up going to Nahian in the mid lane still, as we will get LeBlanc locked into a potential blind, potential set matchup right now with a Lee Sin follow-up to go either top or jungle.
Okay, Melvinizzle. LeBlanc and Ashe both played last game, and Hawks were able to grab the win. So, I mean, if we're looking at results-based analysis, then V3 should be locked in. Alchemy Man, you are playing with a man's heart. Now, Mira has popped off for lunch, so he can't see this right now. And it would be such a shame to see this pulled out in a game that he can't watch. It will instead just be the Lissandra locked in. The champion that we're seeing prioritized very heavily into LeBlanc is one of those old-school counter matchups. And Ace hasn't been too fond of this one.
Yeah, Ace managing to lose both sides of the LeBlanc-Lissandra matchup in the previous week of play, going down 50 CS and 60 respectively, is something that we will need to see if they've improved over the 2 weeks break. Is one of those things that could have just been an off day for them, but you can't really get away with having off days during Super Week because that could carry over the mental into the next day and really drag you down. We do need to see what kind of form V3 is in, though. This is the one team we have not got to at least see so far today. Taking a look, they will come with a relatively difficult to execute comp, I must say. None of these champions are realistically going to have an easy time, and it will be now onto CGA to try and tear them apart in the early game and not fall to the Ashe LeBlanc that they lost to last game.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a dynamic duo in the mid lane. Haven't really touched too much on the Lee Sin locked in for Mujin. Actually, he's looked very, very good on that pick. Obviously, there is that highlight clip from a few weeks ago where Initialize goes absolutely to the moon with Mujin on that pick. So very excited to see him on this one. But again, it feels like it's a little bit the case of V3 seeing what worked so well for the Hawks and going, yep, we'll do exactly the same.
They've got a couple different pivots with the sense that they have got a bit more mobility on the jungle. I think that Lee Sin is an important one to note as a difference because it has solid access into Milan on this Aphelios, which when you pair it with the fact that they have already got the setup of an Ashe plus a Leona, if either of them are keeping Alchemy busy on this Thresh, then suddenly you really do need the rest of your team to be on point, because I will say CJ have got themselves a lot of good disengage tools to keep Milan alive, but is that a strategy you actually want to commit to? Is Milan the person you want to build your entire team comp around this game? We'll have to see, because last game they were playing the Varus. They had a bit of a rough time in lane phase, going down relatively early, not to death, but definitely to CS, so we'll have to see if they can fix their luck coming into this one with a much more aggressive bot lane pairing for themselves.
But on the flip side, just from a mentality point of view, it's got to feel good as a player that has been talked about so much as one of the weaker bot laners to have your team want to play towards you. Whether it's going to be an efficient strategy, we will have to find out as we are heading onto the Rift for V3 against Crest Gaming Act. Following Hollow and Reiner now down into this bot lane. Could grab something early on. We'll have to find out.
This will be the game where if Crest can take it, they can force V3 into a tied state with them, at very least putting them down, requiring V3 to win their next game, our last game of the day after this one, as it will be an early invade from the V3 bottom lane. I like that, just getting vision down, knowing that the Aphelios level 1 is absolutely non-existent because he does not have an ability. He can swap guns and that is it.
2 guns are always better than 1, but it's even better if you can actually do something with them. Now, looking to the mid lane, Nahun has opted for this Aftershock on the Lissandra, so really seeding the damage even further, which does mean that they're playing even more towards Milan. Is this an optimal rune choice in this scenario?
They have a lot of tools that you really do need to survive through on as Nahun in this game. However, it kind of leads me to believe that they're going to be more so of a counter engage in these fights, because one of the reasons that you don't necessarily go for the Aftershock as much on Lissandra right now is because you are effectively a burst mage, where you jump in, deal a lot of damage, and then instantly use the ult on yourself, and then follow up with the Zhonyas or the other way around. When you are against targets like the LeBlanc, targets like the Gwen, targets like the Lee Sin, that you realistically need to stop in their tracks if you are to kill them, what we're going to likely see Nahun go for here is potentially the Everfrost, but more importantly, them using those ultimates on the opposition instead. Waiting until Ace jumps in for poke, Muujin tries to go for an insect, Cog exists, and then try and return it here. I'm seeing a very familiar game state right now in this bottom lane, and CGA have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, they got done dirty last game with the level 2 all-in, and hopefully they will not fall again, as that's a very nice play from Alchemy, as Reiner is forced back. Interesting jungle pathing here actually from Muujin. Went red, smite into blue, and is now doing his gromp. So a little bit non-traditional, a little bit unpredictable, trying to get in Kassin's head. And we'll be looking for an early play, perhaps onto the enemy jungler, or more likely this mid lane.
They are walking around, does have the smite available, as does Kassin. They will arrive at perfect steal time and do not get spotted out by the wind becomes lightning. They should be able to secure this red buff.
Oh, Kassin. Oh, that's going to feel bad. Actually, that feels bad for Muujin. That's a lot of time invested for not too much gains, and might be even worse. Does put that safeguard on himself as Kassin is fighting off against the V3 jungler. Both mid laners moving over, but Ace is going to be the one with the early engage. Kassin flashing, following over the wall, and will dive onto Muujin. The wind becomes lightning, and he becomes dead. Nahun's in there as well, as we've got a brawl in the top side, and it's favoring V3. Nap does get the damage off as Milan gets stunned in the bot lane, cleanses, but gets ignited, does get taken down. And CGA, we told you to play for the laning phase a little bit more. This isn't how you do it.
They have fallen apart in the first 4 minutes of play. That was absolutely not what you wanted with these kind of comps. You need Milan to be ahead, but that begs the question, why is Kassin pathing to topside with their initial clear? Why are they committing to that entire chase down onto a Lee Sin who just has more mobility? You'll see here that it's a good thing from Kassin to secure the buff. They managed to get the smite in as Muujin reactivates Q, which is impressive to say the least. We just had a kill in the bot lane, by the way. I don't know if we'll get a look at that later on. But watch right here as Muujin takes the trade. You don't ever win this against the Xin Zhao early, so they use the escape safeguard, flash away immediately to deny any attempt. And the extra cooldown on the wind becomes lightning is quite significant here, because it meant that Muujin managed to make it to the scuttle crab, and that nerf really coming in big as Nap tries to get a return. But on the bot side, we do see it is just non-stop aggression. Flash coming out from Reiner, really trying to secure their spot above Alchemy in the support standings, and will do so. We had Kassin return bot lane after that though, get a return kill onto the Leona, and now we're all caught up.
Very nicely done, Velvedizzle. Little bit, that was almost play-by-play-esque there, the way that you were bringing us through that. But yeah, as we stand, it is 3-2 in favour of V3 with a very minor gold lead. Nap will be quite grateful for those double buffs in the top lane, helping him in the early dueling against Cog, who's already managed to secure himself a pretty substantial CS advantage. As I think we're now going to be seeing that bot lane play. Yep, it's Kassin coming out of the vision. Very nice death sentence from Alchemy. And Reiner doesn't have the flash available, just falls very easily to the CGA jungler.
Have to give credit to Alchemy for that one. Does manage to get the return kill back after being jumped on by their counterpart in this role, as it will be Muujin now pathing up to top side, actually going for a lane gank. I like this because when you're against the Lee Sin, this is not usually the route they end up taking. They're more than likely going to hop over one wall or the other, taking advantage of their map mobility, as it is a counter gank right now. There were pings right there. Muujin was spotted by the looks of it by CGA, and that is why Kasin will now lurk and wait to see if V3 want to get proactive here. Has just tacked over to 6.
Yeah, but level advantage for Kasin as well, so it's 5v6 now, 5v5, and Muujin will just take the reset, as will Kasin. Both junglers acknowledging that maybe flipping the game in topside isn't what you want to be doing, as Reiner doesn't quite connect with the Xenoblade into the bot lane. Milan shoving in this wave, and with the dragon now spawned up, could give CJ an avenue to grab that objective.
Curious to see if they will opt to take the Krogs first for Muujin. They do have a ward available on Hollow if they walk up to get vision, but it will be just this Aphelios using the priority to come and secure this. I wonder if they will swap. They do swap away from the Graviton right now, so there is no CC set up in this lane. Removes a lot of the threat that Aphelios Thresh has, but does mean they'll be able to shove quicker. Secures this early Infernal Dragon, and will get them on the way to a Soul later on with a Cloud Drake next. That means it's either a mountain or an ocean. Very, very big for Nap. Very, very big for Reiner, but frankly, that's about it.
So this early game, we come to a little bit of a quiet state after that early skirmish in the top lane. Is there a particular team that needs to find a big advantage at this point, as Nakian trading with Ace and that aftershock coming in very handy there?
I'd say that neither team requires Snowball, but the one thing that is definitely a requirement between these teams is if CGA want to take this game, Milan needs attention. You cannot allow this player to fall behind, because the rest of your team just doesn't scale remotely as well. This set can do a lot of damage in a team fight. We've all seen it where they get one big face breaker into a combo and just deal infinite true damage to people. Yeah, Kasim will be a nuisance later, but the amount of mobility on everybody outside of Hollow means that it's going to be really hard to stick to them. Nakian, they haven't got an electrocute. They won't offer that much damage in team fights. They're mainly a utility bot to enable their other carries, as Cogcod's committing to the solo here.
Yeah, he's looking pretty enabled right now as Muujin, scumbag jungler, secures the kill and ensures that that one goes over to him. 2 1-on-1 now on the Lee Sin, has been getting involved, but Kasin has been keeping up in farm and keeping up fairly well in pressure.
I appreciate that, Muujin, right there. Getting the increased gold amount, the assist, that's what it is. It's just min-maxing, nothing personal top lane. As I really like what Ace just did there. They managed to get the ward, immediately spotting Kasin, and lets Muujin know that they need Cog to stick around right now. They do not have the TP available, and could have led to a pretty dire spot if they had not secured that vision.
But indeed, as Rift Herald going over to V3. CJ did grab that Drake, but it will be traded in the long run. Pressure around the map, fairly easy to understand. And Kasin goes back over to his Krugs. Upset that he's lost that objective, but probably expected that.
I'm looking to see how Milan plays this game out later, because there's a lot of mobility, right? So I think that you need to almost go for the kind of Graviton secondary constant where you can at least hold somebody still when they engage on you, because you want Nakian to really be doing that for you, or Kasin or Nap to be disengaging in the process. But I don't think it's remotely as reliable as a single auto attack or setting up a chakram turret with that purple gun on top and just getting the instant point and click route, because it does enable you to then follow up with things like Nakian, things like Alchemy getting a hook down, that realistically on V3, nobody can survive, right? A little bit of damage layering from this team after a starting CC, nobody should be able to escape that short of Cog getting into escape range with that mist. So when we get to these later team fights, these kind of mid-game skirmishes around the next couple dragons that we expect to see, do keep an eye for what guns they have out and how Milan attempts to approach it against a relatively difficult team to attack.
Yeah, and it does depend. It does completely determine whether you can win a fight in a lot of scenarios, as Nakian is playing fairly aggressively on 2 A's. Perhaps didn't realize Muujin was there. Sonic Wave does land, but the Resonating Strike will not follow it up. And this Gwen pick in the top lane for Cog is something that we touched on a little bit in Champion Select. He's been on Mundo duty for a really long time, as More positioning in the mid lane, but not going to lead into anything. He's been on the Mundo for a very long time. We know that he's a very good player. And he's been enabled with this draft and with this pick. Up 40 CS, 1-0-1 on the Gwen. Is going to be a very scary scaling threat later on into the game. And look, you could just bully Nap around without a care in the world.
And this is after those nerfs to Gwen, I believe. No, sorry, that's actually on the next patch. They haven't actually had those yet. Still abusing it for one more week. Really nice.
Nahun. Oh, that's a very nice Glacial Tomb on himself. Will use the path away as Ace pops over the wall, but doesn't really have the mana to chase. The wind becomes lightning, doesn't quite connect as Mujin flashes forward, but the trade onto Nahun is good. Kassin now in a little bit of trouble, does have the flash available, will use it, as there goes the damage. The dive under the tower comes through, and Cog picks up his second kill of the game, although it may not be over as Reiner is looking to grab something. The ignite onto Nahun won't quite take him down, but V3 making the plays and coming out on top.
Very aggressive, will not only secure them this mid lane tower, they will be able to walk it down into the dragon. I see that Nap does have TP in his basing, so they may attempt to slow them down. Okay. Well, that is something that can make it easier to contest the dragon now if they want to. Perhaps seeing that, we may actually get, yeah, there's the TP coming in from Nahun. Nap is not actually immediately TPing in, and let's see how that kicked off and what it realistically means, because it's all about the cooldowns that are used here, as it will be just a really solid play from Mujin. Can't really knock them for anything right there. And it's just working well with this LeBlanc duo that the picks go together, forcing the flash from Nahun by using their own, keeping the slow applied to Kassin, and there is absolutely no way to escape from a Gwen in this current spot when they do commit that flash forward. Does get them the escape, and I like what Rhino was going for here, but when you don't get the initial solar flare, it becomes a bit scuffed after the fact.
I mean, that is double sums down on the Leona, so your engage potential for V3 around this second Drake do go down a little bit. The resets did come out from CGA, they're on the map first. Nap still has access to TP, so they will be able to pick up this cloud with ease, and it will be the Ocean Rift coming through, so if any team's able to pick up the soul, a lot more sustain for them.
I think that's because Mujin tanked up the tower at the very end there. They weren't healthy enough to feel confident to go down to that dragon and just secure it on their own, which Lee Sin can normally do pretty easily, is going to be significant because it means that now CGA are 10 minutes away from a soul. I'll stop there.
Oh, here comes the CC chain onto Valkyrie. Will flash away, and it's just about enough. Kassin's making his way down, as is Nahun. There comes the Moonlight Visual. There goes the Tomb onto the Lee Sin. Finally safeguards away, as Kassin now is being caught out. Here comes Coco. We are having a brawl in the bot lane, and it's favoring V3. Already one kill, but the Gwen is traded back. 2 kills now for V3. Kassin looking aggressive, but can't quite find it. Big plays being made by V3 once again.
Oh, these frozen thralls from Nahun are so important to how the fight plays out, because it really just stops Hollow being able to run forward, which means you need to be getting the early kills, and just because of how long it took to kill anybody right there, it meant that CGA's counterattack was relatively scarpered, as they won't be able to secure a tower plate offer here for anything. Let's take a look at what started off. It was this solar flare landing true into the enchanted Crystal Arrow, forcing the flash away. They do manage to escape initially, but it's just this counterattack right here. It looks really promising at the beginning, but they do buffer the kick, which means that you really can't commit any further for CGA. It's just, look at this Gwen damage onto everybody. Milan with perfect guns still can't do anything to them. And yeah, Nap comes in to pick them up at the very end, but it means nothing. The fight's already ended.
Yeah, Cog being very normal there. Normal amounts of damage, looking a bit pog right now. Did fall down, so is 3-1 and 2 as Nap not quite able to catch out Mujin in the top lane. Is a 3,000 gold lead for V3, but CJ will be quite happy with the couple of Drakes that they've picked up for themselves. Look at that tower plate gold. That mid lane tower falling so early means so much. V3 can push the vision a lot further and might have a better time contesting these objectives like the Herald and like the Drakes.
And almost all of the gold lead is on Cog. 2,500 gold of their 3k gold lead is on this Gwen, which is a terrifying prospect to imagine Gwen getting to that 3-item spike before you're even at 2. Absolutely insane champion if unlocked in a fight. And while you do have really good tools for CGA to hold him still, if this Gwen is allowed enough economy that it can accelerate later on, they might even look to maybe just pick up a QSS to avoid getting tombed by Nathan later on, as they will be looking for potentially that second item stopwatch to try and survive after they get knocked back. Have to see what they go for in the end, as it will be just a play towards the top side now. They are lurking with this Rift Herald in inventory, and Nap doesn't seem to be the wiser. They have now spotted, as it looks like not going to try and hide this play anymore. They're just going to counter-attack onto the Blanc on the bot side.
Yeah. When you get played on the top side, making play on the bot side, not the worst thing to do, but Ace is going to be very mobile on this pick, and it will be the second tower of the game, falling in favor of V3. Or on the top side of the map, could look to grab a second charge out this Rift Herald, and CJ would need to respond very quickly to this play, otherwise they could just start losing inhib towers.
I think this will potentially look for a third. There's no reason not to. You see both Lissandra and the Xin Zhao on the bot side. This will be a third charge right now. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Going to put that below the regen threshold, so that is something that you need to keep an eye on, because it means now whenever there's a dragon fight, once Cog or Ace have TP, they can just threaten that turret and then get a flank on the fight. LeBlanc and Gwen really do not need to be at a fight at the start of it. They can TP in and very quickly find themselves in the right position. So good setup from V3, put themselves in a winning spot at the moment. They are down in Dragons 2-0 though, so they need to be realistically securing this one. Otherwise, the soul point becomes a bit threatening in the elongated fights that these double Gore Drinker plus a Mortal Shield Bow team can put you in.
And they're definitely in a position where they can fight. They've reached a lot of those item spikes that are oh so important, as have CGA, but overall the champion strength, you've just got to favor V3 once again, as we see again the gold lead. Cog's very, very good at League of Legends. Drake now spawning in 20 seconds. Both teams pseudo-contesting this mid lane pressure, but it does go over to V3, which is going to give them first track into the river.
I just noticed as the items were shown right there, that is double Everfrost in the mid lane. This is an Everfrost LeBlanc for Ace right here. Going full utility means that they will really not be able to offer that assassination onto Milan, especially once they complete into that Wit's End that they are currently building. Keep an eye out, lower DPS from this champ.
Kassin going very far forward as the Solar Fairies comes out, and the Jin Zhao's caught a little bit in no man's land. Mujin diving on forward. The Enchanted Crystalline Arrow not doing too much as Nap goes into the backside, deals so much damage. Cog's in the front, and he's going to be falling down as well. No, he's doing the damage enough in time. Nap trying to get out of the fight, and there goes the Gwen. CGA managed to pull it out in the fight, get a 3-for-1, and will pick up this Drake.
Lamb with perfect guns for how that fight played out right there, knowing that the enemy team is going to get up close and personal. Now just gonna come over and make sure Hollow cannot get mid prio, doesn't slow them down. It means they can keep tempo immediately after basing, which is important when that Baron will be up in a minute 40, so you want to be securing vision around there now, so you could start to choke V3 out of the river. Because when you look at the map, you see that the next dragon is going to be up in 5 minutes, right? We got the Baron spawning as the next immediate objective, so if you can pressure that side, it's really where you need to be. So, how'd the fight actually kick off? Because I think it was just the hook and then trying to commit to a play that really didn't strike well because Kassin disengaged everybody of relevance.
Yeah, Mujin diving in, pops a Gore Drinker, but it's exhausted crucially and can't find an exit from the fight. The Enchanted Crystalline Arrow doesn't really land onto anyone important, and Ace gets taken super low, so he can't dive in either. And you ultimately end up in a situation where Cog is just caught on one side of the fight and the rest of the team is fighting on the other, and that's never a good recipe for success. Does lead in to CGA picking up the Drake with ease. V3, their late game plan's a little bit scuppered here.
Not what you want, especially when in that fight, Nap and Kassin easily regenerated over 1,000 health off of just Gore Drinker procs plus the Triumph rune. Is something that they were able to survive a lot on respective sides of the fight and bought way too much time, which especially when Ace has this Everfrost and lacks a lot of that burst damage, not being able to get the finish onto these sustained champions means that they get almost infinitely more value, because if you can't put them onto 0, they're just going to do the same damage over and over again. And looking down the inventories right now, you know, one thing I don't see is heal reduction, but what's what you just spotted?
I just spotted that, I can't remember the name of the item. Milan's inventory.
Oh, yeah, the
half-bound axe. The half-bound axe. which does signal to me that this is going to be a wits end of Felios. Not really something I've seen, but like conceptually, it's mostly going to be AP damage that you're dealing with. So maybe it's a good pickup here.
Considering that Muujin doesn't offer the most amount of burst, and in a lot of scenarios you don't want to be fighting Hollow in a straight up fight, makes perfect sense. If you get the extra positioning from the attacks, the movement speed you get when you do attacks with this item, it also helps you kind of maneuver, try and escape the Gwen, get out of the Everfrost range, which really plays to how you want to go, and is shown that Milan is at least attempting to cement themselves as a player worth focusing around for the squad, which would be a new flavor for CGA, as it is a little bit of a trade in the bot side. Nap getting a bit more confidence, but I don't think they really should have that right now against Cog.
Yeah. The set right now just has to be a meatball in this side lane. As long as you stop the Gwen from taking towers, you are doing your job. But Reiner might be looking to upset the balance here, clearing out some vision, mooching on the bot side as well, and that will force Nap to back away. And it's going to be another tower picked up, going over to Cog. V3 are accelerating this Gwen. Already picked up 2 items, and she's just getting stronger.
And you have to imagine that in the 2-week break we had leading up to Super Week, that V3 did manage to recognize some of their flaws, because they came back and looked at this draft, and I really like how they've approached it, with just saying that, alright, Ace, we need to put you on a priority pick like this LeBlanc, but if we just make you a facilitator with this Everfrost, we don't nearly, well, have to rely on you, to put it in nicely, where, yeah, they can still get things done like this. They're never actually going to kill Nathan here, but they're able to have pressure without actually being the necessity for the team to win. Putting the prior on Hollow and Cog, who have been, I would say, more consistently good performing players for the teams, is something that shows that they are at very least cognizantly thinking about how they want to play the game, which, based on the past 2 very different drafts we've had from CGA, they've been flip-flopping a bit.
Yeah, thinking about how you play the game is definitely a good thing to do it, and it's enabled a little bit more by the Season 11 meta, because I think in metas past, you did just have to play tanks in the top lane, or utility ADCs, or mid laners that dealt all the damage, and right now the game is in a state where you really don't need to do that, which gives these teams a lot more of that flexibility. Baron is on the table and has been for a couple of minutes now, with the Ocean Drake spawning in 40 seconds time. This would be sold for CGA. V3 cannot afford to give this up.
Need to be positioning right now. You already lack the damage to burst through this set and the Xin Zhao, so I don't know how they're going to look for a steal right here. Lee Sin is quite good at it, but smite damage is the same. I think just not letting them in the river is the right approach. Using Hollow to keep this mid prio from a safe distance, as now they're just going to fish for Proc. If they let them walk in the river, though, then this is a really dire spot for V3, as CGA can happily tank up for ages. Milan, perfect skirmishing guns. If this gets into a close range scrap, CGA should come out on top.
Ooh, Ace with the Everfrost there, but it doesn't result in engage. It's another tool dropped by V3, as they're being forced out of the river by the 5-man stack of CGA. Baron, Drake is now alive. Kassin will aggro that one, as Ace is trying to go in, trying to deal these damage, but it's just not connecting.
It is started up now. V3 just using this Ashe W to constantly volley them away. But without having the Landries, without having the Ludens, Ace does not threaten CGA to back off, as it's just a stalemate that CGA will win because they have access to mid lane. But now, I like this. V3, they are trying to aggro the dragon. Keep an eye on the smites. They're both in range.
Solar Flare going in, Nahian in the backside. Kassin diving forward here onto Muujin, and the smite goes over to the Xin Zhao. That's Ocean Soul over to CGA, and they're looking to take the fight as well. Cog picks up Nap on the backside. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow doesn't connect onto anyone as Muujin goes over the wall. Here comes Milan, though, has got the guns, got the damage. Death Sentence goes wide, as that's the Ace clone. Will be dropping down. 1 kill in favor of V3, but CGA walk away with the soul.
A game dictated by smite gap right here. Kassin winning the early smite and managing to delay a lot of Muujin's early pressure. Later on now, they have managed to win the smite fight. Keep an eye on them for this right here. This was such a tense procedure from both teams. Just try to keep the
Look how far
Dragon
Kassin
aggro.
goes. Look how far Kassin goes when he goes into the backside.
Away. And I believe they actually get kicked away. I like this from Mugen to try, but just look at the range that Zinzao can dash back in because the marked target is Mugen. It's insanity, like a fighter jet into this Dragon Pit. They secure it with Gore Drinker plus the Smite, and now in the rest of the fight, frankly, you have the Ocean Salt and an Aphelios with scrapping guns. You physically can't lose this unless they get CC'd. Good sidestep from Milan to buy time, and now they've got the perfect guns for the chase down, just forces V3 to run. And the only heal reduction in your inventory is Cog with this Morello, makes them the most important target for CGA to try and kill. If you could blow up this Gwen initially and avoid them getting those seamstress needles through the entire squad, then you can heal incomprehensible numbers with this Ocean Soul plus double Gore Drinker.
Well, hopefully we will see incomprehensible numbers from CGA. Still at a gold disadvantage. V3 maintain that, but definitely with the run of play, you'd have to favor the Crest side. Starting to see the itemization complete. Milan did pick up that Wit's End before that fight. It was so crucial to enable him to heal through. With the Ocean Soul as well, super efficient when you've got resistances. We've got the Guardian Angel for Kassin as well, so he can dive in with impunity. And yeah, V3 are in the lead, technically, but CGA are in the ascendancy.
I feel like CGA have this game currently. They are the ones that have to lose this game. It's not something that is in V3's hands anymore, as it will be looking like CGA. They are looking to this Baron right now. I believe that Milan is about to cycle into the red and white guns, which are an absolutely disgusting amount of damage you can do to objectives. They are going to hold on to that blue one for the moment to clear the next mid wave. Keep prio and potentially look for a big ultimate before this, though.
Yeah, but this is a position that CGA have been in before. They've been in the lead in their previous game and they flustered. Currently holding mid priority. Both teams just testing each other, not really sure what to do. No one wants to fire out that big ultimate. No one wants to lose their team the game at this stage.
CGA just need to walk to this Baron and force them to come in.
Oh, Kassin needs to dive in as Nathan will pop the Glacial Path. The Solar Flare used as well. And again, it's the disengage. Ace's Banshee's Veil will be popped, so that's another defensive tool that V3 do not have. He's still diving forward with impunity, but CGA, they're just chilling.
They're going for the ARAM right here. They know for a fact that without Flash, this Ashe can't walk into the river safely. So they're going to take this tower to just completely deny any vision control, rotate up, presumably, and look to zone out as they're maybe overstaying a bit.
Oh, that's a very nice Enchanted Crystalline Arrow landing onto Nahian, but Kokok in the front side, exhausted, can't do anything, pops into the Zonias. The Moonlight Vigil goes wide as Ace is coming in from the side, trying to get the assassination onto Milan, but it doesn't quite land. Nap goes down, but he takes two with him as CGA find the fight.
Nap absolutely massive in that fight, and now CGA have prio on the map. They have great guns on the Aphelios, and they're going to try and crack open the base without flipping it for the Baron. I think that is the right call, at very least just going to open up this tower, and now the question is, what can they do to dissuade Mugen from going for the steal? They are on the map. They have the tools from Ashe to see it. Look at the amount of wards in the V3 inventory. They do have the ability to spot this out. That is the first Hawk shot down. Watch the Lee Sin, watch the LeBlanc. Ace just needs to buy vision and let them know when to go in.
But CJ will not be going down without a fight. 5k now on the Baron as Kassin is flashing forward onto Hollow, trying to take down the ADC, take out the damages. Ace is on the backside, falling low as well. That's already a kill going over to Milan, and LeBlanc forced away. With the teleport in, this gives CJ even more priority onto this objective.
The Lissandra ult is back up now, so Lee Sin cannot walk through as long as Nahian is in the way. This blocker is going Legends of Runeterra style to not let them into the pit.
TP in, Kokok diving in, the death sentence landing onto the Leona, and Milan landing down onto the ground, somehow still alive, dealing the damage onto Ace. The backline finally goes down to Mugen, but V3 have lost the fight in the process. A double kill picked up by Alchemy, and it's an ace for CGA.
They should be able to take this Baron away, and that is going to be an extreme influx because look at the respawn timers right now. 30 seconds across the board for the V3 top side. And when is that Elder up? 30 seconds. This is going to be a matter of both teams sprinting it to that objective. You will have Baron recalls from CGA. Oh god, it's going to be close. As we take a look at the replay in our few moments of respite, it's just V3 trying to buy as much time for their team to come up. getting as much poke down, and it's because Ashu's flash in the mid lane that Kassin is so confident to go for this. It's the right call, denying most of the DPS from the VP squad, as now they just rush through the Baron. It turns into a massive scrap where they end up losing Milan over a very elongated fight, must I say. As watch how long this Aphelios survives for. They managed to get all the way down to that HP, the Lantern to reposition, and they just straight DPS with Ace for a long time there, as now we are finally at the setup.
Yeah, we don't have time to talk about that anymore as Ace dives forward, isn't quite able to land the Everfrost onto Nap. Cog is in the Drake pit, but can snip his way out of that one with no issue. Ace going very far forward, taking most of his health bar in trade, though definitely not worth for the LeBlanc, so can't pressure as much as he would like to, and this gives CJ inside track onto this Elder.
Priority is all theirs right now. They should be able to secure this without woe, but Muujin will always be a thorn in their side if they cannot find a way to answer them. They have the Baron, they need to get this mid prio, and then they could just have one person stand there and force it. The arrow goes wide though, not going to start the fight off.
Oh, but they're going to be starting off the Elder Drake. 9,000 Nathun's found his way into the backside. 6,000 Hook landing onto Ace. He's taken out the fight before he could do anything. And now Nathun is in the backline, combines with the Moonlight Vigil, and CGA just take the fight with ease. Muji goes over the wall, and Alchemy follows him as well. The Jungler falls down, the Elder Drake falls down, and CGA look to take the game.
That should be Nexus falling right there. A final kill from Nahyun, flashing their former team a moat, and that will be it off of an explosive play to end the game. Off of what was frankly just the fact that they got the soul. They gapped with dragons this game, and you have to commend Kassin for being so cool under pressure in every scenario where they were forced to smite fight this game.
Well, I tell you what, it may not be over, Melvin, as we're starting to see respawn timers coming through from V3, but they'd have to fight against 5 members of CGA. It will not be enough. Ace with the Everfrost only delaying the inevitable at this point, and CGA come back from their earlier defeat and take down V3.
Unbelievable for them to pivot their style so much between games, going full scaling with the Karthus and Ornn, losing with that in the late game of all things to a team that they had eclipsed in utility. Now coming into this one saying, actually we're playing for lanes, going behind in lanes, perfect to the CGA narrative, and then coming back and winning off of dragons.
I tell you what, man, against Hawks, they did the worst thing they could have done, and go even. It turns out the way that CGA win games, just falling behind and then late game team fighting with a deficit. Very impressive by then. And I want to highlight Milan. Like, yes, we've had so many questions about this guy, but he was able to do the DPS in those fights and basically completely nullify Ace.
As soon as they got that Ocean Soul, they became nearly untouchable. They did not have the damage on the Lee Sin to burst through them immediately, and that just meant that they could sustain for their life's sake. And my lord, CGA really coming out with an upset that I would have to classify as in typical CGA fashion. When we were doing like the little predictions for the games, I have every single CGA game marked down as a question mark, because you really do not know what kind of form you're getting with this team, and they are flipping the coin perfect to their name today.
And I'll tell you what, everyone else had V3 down to win this game, not this guy. So
well done.
I'm pretty happy with that one. As it's been a mixed day for CJ, but to end it with a win will feel very nice. I'm sure V3 will be looking to end their game day with a win, as they are facing off against Rascal Jesters in our next game. That's going to be in a few minutes' time. Don't go anywhere.